betting on my wife's infidelity. It's dark and the road is dangerous. It's a 2-lane expressway, it's raining, and I'm still at least an hour from home. I don't know how it's gotten to this point. I'm tempted to just turn the wheel, flip the SUV over, and say goodbye to the whole situation. But I won't. I won't. Because I love my 2 kids and I still love my wife. An hour away from home, and I wonder what kind of home it will be when I get there. I'll admit I'm angry, pissed off, and confused. My wife can't be cheating on me, and certainly not with the cadet I fear she is cheating with. I shall soon find out. I'll know when I get home. Within the hour, I'll know for sure. I checked the clock on the dashboard. 5 o'clock in the evening, Friday, November 14th, 2013. Dark, cold, and damp. I should have changed the tires, or at least checked them. I know they're almost bald, but it's my running truck, not a good one. No one uses it but me. I would never let Helen near it, it's too dangerous. I only used it today because I wanted my nephew Wayne to use my good truck. Wayne had just turned 19. He just graduated from high school and decided to take a year off and work before going to college. Wayne is a great kid. He's my older brother's oldest son. Wayne works for me. Lately, ever since he sprained his ankle, he's just been chopping wood. Okay, I admit I'm a farmer, but not just any farmer. I graduated from high school and went to college and graduated in 4 years. I'm not a tough guy. I just work for my family. I don't have any special skills, I just work hard. I served in the Army Reserves, though. Yes, I wore the uniform and wore it proudly. Only served up to E5, never been drafted overseas, and thank goodness I never will. I haven't served in 15 years. Okay, it was just the motor pool, but I'm still proud of what I've done. I love my country. My dad and mom raised 5 kids. I'm the middle child, the third of 5. This road is dangerous, it's slippery, it's rained a little bit, more like fog than rain, and everything is slippery. I think people are more careless when the roads are like this. I'm in a hurry. According to Wayne, if I pull ahead, I can get to the place before it's too late. Okay, where's that? There's a Motel 6 in Pennsylvania, just off Interstate 81. And who might be in that motel? My ever-loving, pissing-me-off wife Helen and her alleged lover Jim asshole Carpenter. I have to get there. I have to stop her before she does something we will both regret. Wayne took my good truck today so he could keep an eye on Helen while I went to Martinsburg to settle a score with a couple assholes who thought they could scam a couple guys who worked for me. The guys brought 8 cords to this guy's house, which is 2 truckloads of good-aged oak firewood. He pounced on them, saying that the wood was not good enough and he would not pay them. For intimidation, he had his brother with him. Martinsburg is now part of the outer ring of D.C. suburbs. Housing is expensive, and firewood sells for $200 a cord. Chopping and stabbing firewood is hard and dangerous work. No one would get into me and my laborers for $1,600. I had a baseball bat in the back seat to guarantee it. I got our money. Helen knew I had to leave and probably figured this was her chance to get away with it. I don't think she was thinking about Wayne. Wayne has kept me in the loop the last few weeks about the whole Helen and Jim thing. Jim is a real bird dog, and he's been sniffing around my quail. Nothing has happened yet, but it looks like they will get a chance tonight or tonight. I see I'm low on gas. Better stop. I'll call Wayne and find out what's going on. It's tearing me apart. Helen's always been a grade A fool, but I have to admit I'm a classic hard-headed asshole. We've been married 15 years. We have 2 kids, 12-year-old Jamie and 11-year-old Janice. They're both great kids. I love them. I love their mom, too. Helen and I met through my younger sister. My sister and Helen were sorority sisters in college. Helen is the kind of person who always had everything she dreamed of. Helen's parents are wealthy. She was the school prom queen, head cheerleader, and generally the most popular girl. Things were no different in college. Guys followed her around like she was a cheater. How did we meet? One September day, my sister took me to the Fall Apple Festival near Gettysburg. I think it was 1995. Helen was there gorging on completely tasteless French-fried sweet potatoes. I know a lot of people like them, but I think they taste bad. I was cursing at my sister for having to stand in line while she buys this nonsense when a girl at a table hit me over the head with an umbrella. This girl hit me and said, "If you don't like my potatoes, then why are you even standing in line?" I couldn't stand it, looked at her and said, "Who are you, you elephant?" I said that because she was clearly taller than me, and that's when my sister intervened. "Helen," she said, "meet my little brother Tommy." The tall one smirked. "Now I see why you call him little brother. Where did you get him in Boyland?" That's how it started. A few minutes later, we were all sitting around the picnic table and Helen and I were exchanging barbs. Had I fallen in love? Of course I had fallen in love, but I knew I could never tell her that. She was one of the most beautiful women I'd ever met, and I fell for her. My college sweetheart had moved to California in search of her right mister. Lucky for me, I caught Helen's eye too. Her last boyfriend had two problems. First, according to Helen, he was a cheater, and second, he expected her to pursue him. When she didn't, he left. I found out about the guy on one of our first dates. I think Helen was putting me on notice of several things. One, she wanted me to know right away that if I was dating her, I wasn't dating anyone else. And two, she didn't like to give anyone anything until she was married. That's what she told me, she was a virgin. Yeah, like I believed that. There's no such thing anymore. We dated for a year before I asked her to marry me. I was scared to ask her. I figured she was only dating me until someone better came along. I gave her a ring and asked her if she wanted to finish what we had started. She laughed and said that nothing had started yet, but she was willing to give it a try. I stopped at the store, got gas, bought a cup of black coffee and a bag of chips. I'm not allowed to eat things like potato chips. Helen has put such snacks on the forbidden list. I'm also not allowed soda, white bread, candy, ice cream, chocolate, or any baked goods. Helen says my cholesterol is too high. I had to take a leak. As I stood there and did my thing, I thought, why didn't she even think about messing with me, and why did she do it with an asshole like Jim Carpenter? It was tearing me up inside. It's not like I'm the type to spend all my time on the road. I'm not lazy. I'm a good provider. I went to college. I'm not stupid. When I graduated, I realized I wasn't going anywhere from my dad's farm. I have two older brothers. If I stayed on the farm, I would never become anything more than a wage earner, but I wasn't a house mouse either. That meant I knew I had to be outdoors. I just didn't envision myself in an office. I had help from our grandparents. I bought lawn equipment and started my own lawn care service. It worked out well, but the competition was very stiff, so I contracted with several farmers who owned large tracts of timber. I went into the firewood business. That worked pretty well too, but it left me with a lot of free time in the winter, so I started buying snow removal equipment. Now I have a lawn service, a firewood business, and in the winter, I have made arrangements with several businesses and one of the county to help clear roads and parking lots when the snow falls. I would say that Helen and I are doing well. Helen does our bookkeeping, payroll, and handles almost everything regarding hiring and firing. I bought coffee and chips, got in my SUV, and called Wayne. Wayne picked up on the first ring. "I have some bad news, Uncle Tom." I'm not good at hiding the truth. "What is it, Wayne?" "Aunt Helen and Mr. Carpenter got a room at the Motel 6. They're already there." "Okay, Wayne," I replied. "I'm on my way." Wayne asked me, "What are you going to do, Uncle Tom?" I answered him, "I don't know yet." I turned on the ignition and got back on the highway. I figured another 40 minutes and everything would be clear. I took off and drove as fast as the law allowed. I must have been going faster than I thought. I got pulled over. I wasn't speeding. I had a blown tail light. Why would a cop pull me over in the dark, in the middle of a foggy rainstorm? I think he wanted to get hit by a passing motorist while he was standing outside my driver's window. I took the inspection ticket, thanked him, and headed back the way I came. I lost another 15 minutes. The whole Jim Carpenter thing was a joke, a bad joke. He was new to the neighborhood. He was a braggart and cocky, but he had money and was able to get a membership to the country club that my Helen said we just had to belong to. Helen is a blonde goddess. Her statuesque height is 5 feet 11 inches. She has beautiful blue eyes and the kind of face and figure that men wage wars over. She knows she looks stunning. And for over 15 years now, she has used her magnificent beauty to make a fool of me. I don't really care. I give her a kick in the teeth. Helen is 2 inches taller than me, and when she puts on her high-heeled shoes, she towers over me. Of course, she does it on purpose. Usually at the club, when she's there in one of her slinky and trim sexy black dresses, black lingerie, and patent black-heeled shoes, I sometimes intentionally put on my heelless loafers. She puts on the shoes to gross me out. I wear loafers to get even. It's been like this since I can remember. We fight with each other about everything. At least in public, it's different at home. In public, I can never do anything right, and at home, I'm never wrong. It's just unthinkable that she would cheat on me with someone like Jim Carpenter. Of course, everyone knows how Helen and I fight and bicker. That, according to Wayne, is what caused the mess we're in now. I said Carpenter was a wastrel. According to Wayne, Mr. Carpenter bet he could have sex with my wife before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is only a week away. Wayne said he's been taking bets and giving odds lately. That's heartbreaking. I can't imagine Helen doing something like that. I'm sure if she knew it was about the bet, she'd be pissed, but Helen isn't a gossip. If there was gossip about the bet, she wouldn't listen to it. And yet, she's been acting strangely lately. She's distant from home. Sometimes she'd be on the phone and I'd walk in and she'd either leave the room or start talking very quietly. There were also times when I would call and not be able to reach her. The latter circumstance, her inaccessibility, is especially troubling because she is an integral part of our business. She has always been easy to reach, but not lately. It seems as if she's been busy lately, too. As if she has other things on her mind. As long as it wasn't about Jim Carpenter. I pulled over to the curb and dialed Wayne's phone number again. He picked up right away. "Hello, Wayne?" I said. "Yes, Uncle Tom, it's me." "Really?" "I'm sorry, Uncle Tom. I didn't get a good look at her face, but that's her dark brown coat. And you know how she braided her blonde hair into a long French braid, and that was her hat. I didn't see her Lexus. He drove them both. I think she met him somewhere." I heard Wayne swallow back tears and told him, "Stay focused, Wayne. I'm on my way." Something else was bothering me, too. It was November 15th. My birthday was on the 12th, and this was my 40th. Helen hadn't said or done anything. Ever since the kids came along, we've always put a lot of importance on birthdays. I don't mean a bunch of presents and stuff. I mean we do things like cake and ice cream and candles and sing happy birthday and stuff like that. I like to purposely sing out of tune. I only do it to annoy Helen. I also always tell her not to make a fuss about my birthday, but I actually enjoy it. Of course, my feelings were a little hurt when Tuesday came and went, and no one said anything. Oh, well, now I know why. Now, I picked up the pace. I was going to find out. I was going to get her. Maybe I should call home. I pulled over and called home from my cell phone. My mom picked up the phone. "Hello." "Hello, Mom? It's me. Where's Helen?" "Oh, Helen?" "Helen had to go out. I'll babysit until she gets back." "Do you know when she said she'd be back?" "No, Tommy, she didn't say exactly. She just said she wouldn't be long, that I shouldn't call her, and that she'd be back before you got home." "Okay. Thanks, Mom." Well, that's it. Helen is out with the big asshole, unknowingly helping him win a bet, and my mom is at home with the kids. I felt like crying. Of course I didn't. I just felt like it. Helen and I had talked about things like fidelity before we were married. Before I met Helen, I'd fooled around a little, but not too much. Helen, of course, was every guy's dream. I couldn't imagine her not having at least as much experience as me. Throughout our acquaintance and then our one-year engagement, she swore she was a virgin. I didn't believe her, but I never mentioned it. We had a big wedding. We are both Methodists, so the choice of church was easy. We chose her. My mom and dad didn't care. They fell in love with her from the first time they met her, as did all my siblings. There were about 300 people at the wedding. It was in June. Must have been one of the hottest days of the year. On our honeymoon, we went to Niagara Falls. Where else could we have gone? The whole time we were dating, it was like I was constantly under surveillance. With 4 siblings and a huge number of nephews, nieces, and cousins in love with Helen, I couldn't do anything without someone reporting Helen. The fact that I was spying on Helen never occurred to me. Firstly, I believed that if she really loved me, she would keep the faith. And secondly, if she left me, I didn't want to know about it. I believed she was lying about her virginity, right up until our wedding night. Then I found out she really was. I got Helen's cherry. She's never been with another man. Why now? Why, after 17 years of public fights and personal adoration, had she sold us out, and sold us out for an asshole like Jim Carpenter? I had to stop thinking about it. If I don't stop thinking about it, I'm gonna cry. I know I won't cry, not really. Men don't cry, not in my family. I remember our wedding night. I remember how small she was. I remember how scared she was. I mean, the entire 2 years we dated, I listened to all her bravado, all her talk about how popular she was, how many guys she'd turned down, how she'd managed to break a dozen hearts, and how incredibly lucky I was. She didn't need to tell me any of that. I already knew I was lucky. I remembered the return of her last serious boyfriend. Roy Orbison wrote a song about it. It was called Running Scared. I knew she loved him so much that she almost, exactly almost, gave him her most special possession. I had been afraid to run for months. He showed, and like the song, she turned around and walked away with me. I felt 10 feet taller that day. Of course, a little later she had to burst my bubble. She said she only stayed with me because she felt sorry for me. I thought, so what, since I got the prize? We didn't actually consummate our marriage that first night. We made love. I kissed her on all sides. She even touched me. I didn't make love to her until the next morning. No, she couldn't cheat on me with Carpenter. We meant too much to each other. I looked at the clock on the dashboard. 10 more minutes. In another 10 minutes, I'd be at the motel. What was I going to do? I had no idea. A light showed up ahead. They hadn't turned the lights off for me. Could this even be the right motel? I pulled up and parked next to my nice truck. Wayne got out of the truck. Wayne walked over. That man, Carpenter. He's already gone. They hadn't been there together that long. Mrs. McMillan, my sister, is still there. Thanks, Wayne. I headed for the door. My whole life was about to come crashing down. I felt sick at the thought of my Helen cheating on me with that asshole. I remembered when we had our children. I was scared then. It was Helen who calmed me down. I thought about everything we'd done. The trips to Hershey, the trips to New York for plays with our kids, the trip to Branson, the trip to Nashville, both of our kids' elementary school graduations, Helen breaking her leg and me pushing her all over Walmart in a wheelchair. I almost turned around. I really didn't feel like catching her. I didn't know what I was going to say. We both had a loyalty agreement. If I went to that door, there would be no forgiveness. It would end badly. I walked to the door of the motel room. It was room 123. I knocked. There was no answer. I knocked again. Someone inside said, "I told you to leave." I didn't. I didn't recognize the voice. I knocked a little harder. "It's not who you think it is." The person inside opened the door slightly. She was holding the door chain. I knew immediately that it wasn't my Helen. I wanted to scream, scream, scream. The woman inside asked, "Who are you? Are you the police?" I replied, "Oh no, I'm not the police." I thought quickly and reached into my pocket and pulled out the wad of bills I had gotten from the 2 men who had tried to scam my boys earlier. I held out the 50 through the door. "Here," I said, "please let me in just for a minute." There was silence for a second. Then the door slowly opened. The woman stood aside. The room was dark. She seemed to have a gun in her hand. She whispered threateningly, "You're not the police?" I replied, "No, ma'am." She pointed what I took to be a gun at the floor. I knelt on the floor. She asked, "Then who are you?" I held my hands up like they do in cowboy movies. By then I had figured it out. I said, "I think I'm the husband of the woman you portrayed today." She continued to hold something in her hand that was pointed at me. Now I realized it wasn't exactly a gun, but what it was, I didn't know. She asked, "What do you know about it?" I told her, "The man you were with earlier made a bet that he could sleep with my wife before Thanksgiving." I almost choked at those words. I noticed the blonde wig on the bureau by the bed. "But it looks like he paid you instead." She gritted her teeth. "Yeah, a real asshole." "Can I get up?" I asked. She set aside the chicken wing she was holding. Then I noticed the KFC box, and she said, "Yes, you can stand up, but don't try anything. I know karate." I doubted she knew anything, but I didn't care. I looked at the clock on the bureau. It was still pretty early, so I asked, "How much did he pay you?" I could see the wheels turning in her head. She replied, $500. I suggested that he probably paid her much less than that. I suggested, "How would you look at making $500 more?" "What do I need to do?" she asked. "It's still early. I bet Carpenter, the same guy who paid you, is at the country club right now collecting money for a bet he thinks he won. I'll pay you another $500 if you'll come with me and expose him." She held out her hand. Money. I plucked off the required number of Franklins. I was glad I didn't let those two assholes who tried to cheat with the wood pay me with a check. I made them come with me to their bank and withdraw $1,600 in cash. Now paying her would negate all the hard work, but I thought it would be worth it. While the call girl was putting on her coat, I called home again. My mom answered me. "Hello, Mom? Is Helen home yet?" Mom answered, "No, she's still not home." "When are you going to be home? I need to get to your father's house." I told her, "I won't be long." I could see she was a little angry, but what I wanted to do was too important. The girl and I got into my old SUV and drove to the country club. Wayne had gone. Yes, Carpenter was there when we got to the country club. I made the cheating girl dress like she was my wife again, and we walked into the country club like it was Christmas. It was a little after lunchtime, so the place was still crowded. Plus, they had hired a small orchestra for the evening, so the place was lively most of the night. She and I walked past the front desk and straight into the restaurant and bar. Old Jim Carpenter was sitting behind the bar along with a few other men. I took my new friend by the hand and led her to the bar. I waved to Harry Forsythe, one of the guys standing next to Carpenter. "Hey, Harry," I said. "You've met my wife before." Harry was dumbfounded. Carpenter turned around. He looked at the woman and turned white as a sheet. I said, "Hey, Jim. Hey, guys. You've all met my wife before. Remember her? She's been here with Jim all day." The cheating woman took off her wig. Harry was smarter than the average bear. He looked at Jim and said, "I think you owe me some money, Jim." Carpenter reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of bills. He separated a few and held them out to Harry. Harry didn't move. "What about my winnings?" Jim replied, "Oh yeah," and held out a few more bills. By then, several other guys had lined up behind Harry. Carpenter reached for his checkbook. I wondered how many of these guys had bet that my wife would sleep with this guy. I mentally ticked off each guy in line. One of them was an officer of the club. Just at that moment, the club president noticed the line and the money exchange. Making bets and getting money off of them was fine, but no one was supposed to engage in collecting money in a restaurant or bar. It was considered vulgar. The club president came up to us. "What's wrong?" I turned around. All these gentlemen made a bet with Mr. Carpenter that he could seduce my wife before Thanksgiving. Apparently, Jim couldn't talk my wife into it, so he paid this lady to impersonate my wife. He must have gotten the pictures as proof. The president nodded sagely. He did. Carpenter tried to brush it off. He scoffed. It was a joke, just a joke. I interrupted him. It wouldn't have been a joke if I hadn't caught it. My wife would have been humiliated. I looked at the president. I'm sorry, Mr. Benson, I will be revoking my family's membership in the morning. The president took me by the elbow. No, you won't revoke. He looked at Carpenter. I want you out of here right now. He then looked at the other club employee who was involved in the bet. You get out too. He looked around at all the other men. There were 6 of them. I want to see you all first thing in the morning. None of you will bother to come out to the starting line. And don't think I won't remember who you are. I think pretty soon you'll all be looking for a new club and a new field. And you can rest assured, if any of the other clubs around here ask why you're no longer with us, you can be sure I'll tell them. I looked at the men. Some of them I considered friends, nice guys. I knew that some of their wives were good friends of Helen's. Very bad. Very bad. The president wouldn't let go of my elbow. Mr. McMillan, Tom, please don't leave us. We need people like you. I wondered if he really meant it, or was remembering the winter when I worked for free in the parking lot. Then I realized we weren't leaving, at least not right away. If we left, it might be perceived that my wife might have done something, and no one, nothing or no one had hurt my Helen. I told him, that hurts, Mr. Benson. Helen is my wife. I'll let you know. I nodded to the men, took the cheating woman by the arm, and led her out of the club. Soon she was back at the motel. I thanked her and asked if she needed a ride. She said yes, and I drove home. All the way home, I wondered where Helen was. It wasn't really that late. She might have been shopping for Christmas. Perhaps she was grocery shopping for Thanksgiving dinner. There was something else. I was exhausted. It wasn't just the long drive or the hassle of dealing with potential crooks in Martinsburg, but the whole thing at the country club with Carpenter and my so-called friends who were betting on my wife's infidelity. As I drove down my street, all I could think about was the TV, a big soft chair, and a big bowl of ice cream. I didn't even want to eat dinner. I knew I wasn't going to get ice cream. Helen's foolishness would take care of that. When I pulled up to my house, all I saw were cars parked all over the place. Someone must be having a party. We lived on a nice, quiet street. Most of the houses were ranches. But someone was definitely throwing a big party. Cars were parked even on my lawn. It looked like the party was at my house. Had I missed something? If Helen had planned something and I forgot, I was in for one hell of a ride. Since I couldn't pull into my house, I parked the car on the street. I started up the path. God bless America, I knew it. I was in a real world of garbage. I opened the door as quietly as I could. Maybe I could slip inside without anyone noticing. And then, as I opened the door, I saw all these lights. Someone had painted a big sign. It was full of people. Everyone started yelling, "Surprise! Happy birthday!" Suddenly, there was a cacophony of noise. Helen rushed over to me. She was wearing a pale blue button-up blouse and a dark blue miniskirt, all of which clearly showed me why someone wanted to take her away from me. She asked, "Where have you been?" We were worried. My children huddled around me. My nephew Wayne, smiling, threw a trash ball at me. Helen took my hand and pressed her breasts against me. I whispered, "I had to stop by the club." She leaned over, remembering she was taller than me, and kissed my cheek. It was a kiss, the kind of kiss I like, and whispered softly, "This has nothing to do with betting at the country club, does it?" I blushed. She knew. She knew all the time. She turned, and her long blonde French braid got right in my face. "I can't wait for everyone to go home." Helen, my wife, my lover, the mother of my children, put her arm around my waist and started pulling me toward the living room. "Come on in." We have your cake, ice cream, presents, potato chips with your favorite dip, and all sorts of stuff. She looked around the crowd. Look, everyone, Tommy is home. My husband, my big handsome hero is home. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.